couple of 100 kilometers doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're in a really mountainous, twisty area, and that's our route for the day, that will take us quite a while. Hey adventurer, I'm Bridget Hallam from Throw Your Leg Over, and today I'm taking you on a typical riding day with us, with Alan and I, when we are in Europe. We've had 4 big adventures in Europe, the first in 2019, and we were there for about 5.5 months. We went back in 2022 for about 6 months or so, and again in 2023 for around 6 months. That's when I broke my foot. That's another story. And then we returned again in 2025, and that was a longer adventure, about 8.5 months. And I get a lot of questions from women about the logistics of how we do the longer adventures. We ride 2 up on Beauty, Alan's BMW GS. We ride 2 up for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it is cheaper to be on 1 bike than 2 bikes in terms of fuel and tires and servicing and ferries and all the things. The second reason is that I ride pillion so I can take lots of photos and videos, which I love to do. And by the end of this episode, you'll have a pretty clear picture of a typical riding day on our longer adventures and some tips that you might be able to weave into your own typical day of your adventures. So let's start at the beginning. First things first, we wake up usually around 7 o'clock. If we're camping and we're in the tent, I will put on my riding pants and my top layer immediately. It sits at my feet inside the tent, so I've got easy access to it first thing in the morning. We will have a basic breakfast. It might just be fruit, a couple of bananas that we bought the day before. We will boil our kettle and make a coffee. We carry coffee and sugar with us. We don't carry milk because we don't have a way of keeping it cold throughout the day. And it's just wasteful if we're buying a carton of milk and then using it for 2 coffees and then throwing the rest out. So it's usually black coffee and maybe a bit of sugar. Then, of course, we wash up our mugs or cups, pack up all our gear into our panniers, and then pack up the tent and our camping gear into our Touratech bag. It sits behind me when I'm on Beauty, and all our camping and cooking gear goes into the Touratech bag. The last thing that we make sure that we do is to fill up our water bottles, particularly if it is going to be a hot day. So that's how we do the camping morning routine. If we're in hard roof accommodation, breakfast is sometimes included, or we might have access to a kitchen. Say we've booked an apartment, a little apartment, we can make our own breakfast. Sometimes there's no breakfast and we'll just have a coffee to keep us going for a little bit. And on really desperate days, there's no food and no coffee. And in that instance, we just have to be patient for a couple of hours until we can find somewhere to get some breakfast and coffee. So once we're all packed up, we pack everything onto Beauty. Alan will get our TomTom, which we've named Timmy the TomTom. Alan will get Timmy all set up on Beauty, make sure the route that we're riding is set up and ready to go. And then it's usually around 9 o'clock and we will throw our legs over and hit the road. A typical riding day for us is about 5 or 6 hours. We don't like to do big days. We do like to get in sort of to our destination sort of mid-afternoon. 5 or 6 hours in Europe can sometimes be as little as a couple of 100 kilometers. It's quite surprising. If we are riding up a mountain, for example, like over a mountain pass or a couple of mountain passes, the roads will generally be very twisty. They will generally be quite narrow. And what that means for us is that we will be going quite slow. When we're doing the hairpin bends, we can be going around those bends at, 30 kilometers an hour. And then up a little bit, we might hit 60, and then we hit another hairpin bend. So we slow down again into second gear or whatever it is and around. So a couple of 100 kilometers doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're in a really mountainous, twisty area and that's our route for the day, that will take us quite a while. I will take photos as we ride. I have a handheld camera. I have that in my right hand. And if it's a stunning ride, beautiful mountains, beautiful scenery, if the sun is out, the sky is blue, I will take many, many photos. An average day is 400 or 500 photos, but if it's a stunning ride on a stunning day, I have been known to take over 1,000 photos. And yeah, my finger that's on the shutter button does get a bit weary after a while, but it's amazing, so I have to. Now, also, if it's a great ride, I will film it on my GoPro. I have a handheld GoPro that I have in my left hand. So if you can imagine me on the back, pillion, with the GoPro in the left hand, my camera in the right hand, and filming and taking photos, it is a bit of a circus, but I love it. I just love it. And that's one of the reasons I love riding pillion, is that I can get to do that. If the ride is not so interesting, if it's just what we call a transit day where we just need to get from A to B and we're probably going to be on highway for a fair bit, I won't film, I'll just take photos. Now, back to the food, the most important thing. If we haven't had breakfast yet, if we've hit the road on an empty stomach, we will try to find a bakery or a cafe in a little village somewhere. Sometimes this is easy. Sometimes not so easy. We have been through villages where there are just houses. There are no shops or cafes or anything. And so we have to just keep on going until we can find somewhere to have some breakfast. Along the way, of course, during the day, we are stopping to take photos. If there's a spot where there's an awesome view, we will pull in and take photos with our phones, stand there and go, wow, and just pinch ourselves sometimes that we get to do this. We will stretch, walk around for a bit, get some blood flowing again, and if we haven't eaten for a while, we'll have a bit of a snack. We carry snacks with us, and they're always good just to keep hunger at bay until we get to wherever we're having lunch or arrive at our destination. Public toilets in Europe aren't really a thing like they are in Australia. So we've worked out a strategy for this. We will usually try and find a cafe and buy a couple of coffees and use their toilet. We think that's kind of a fair exchange. We spend money in their cafe, we might even buy some food, and in exchange we get to use their toilet. During the day, we will also spend a few minutes to find a supermarket or a mini market. More often than not, they're mini markets, tiny little supermarkets that is near our accommodation for that night, just to check in case it's not within walking distance from where we're staying. It might be 3 kilometers away, for example. If that's the case, then we'll make sure that we pull into the mini market on the way to our accommodation and pick up some groceries, whether it's for dinner or for breakfast the next day. And, if we need to buy toiletries like some deodorant or whatever it is, some toothpaste, we can do that too. When we arrive, as I said, it's usually mid-afternoon, especially if the weather is not fabulous. If it's stinking hot or freezing cold or raining, we will try to do a shorter day. If we're camping, that's when we will pitch our tent straight away and unpack our panniers and then dive in the showers. If we are in hard roof accommodation, we'll first of all figure out how to get in if it's an Airbnb. Sometimes that's a bit of a puzzle, but yeah, get in, settle in, and have a shower, of course. And then it's working out dinner. Whether we're camping or hard roof, we then need to figure out what we're doing for dinner. You know, go down to the local supermarket and get some groceries, or wander around town and find a restaurant. In the meantime, we will charge our tech, and this is both our phones, my handheld camera, and my GoPro. They all need to be recharged. Alan's GoPro is hooked up to Beauty and charges as we ride, so he doesn't need to charge it at the end of the day. If we're camping, we are careful about being nearby when we're charging our tech. Unless, you know, we find our neighbours are really, really nice, then we are a little bit more relaxed about it. But generally we keep a bit of an eagle eye on our tech, just because it is so important to us, because we are obviously running our business, throw your leg over, and the inconvenience and cost of replacing our tech is not something that we want to have to do. Okay, so let's assume we've had dinner, our bellies are full, we're feeling good. Then the next thing we need to do is some work. We do work as we travel, which is great and also occasionally quite challenging. Our normal routine for the evening is that we transfer all our photos from my handheld camera and both our phones onto our laptops. Those photos are really precious to us for a number of reasons, mostly because, you know, we want to be able to look at them when we're old and grey and can't quite remember what we did. So they are precious to us, and we take a lot of care to make sure that we have all the photos on my laptop and also all the photos on Alan's laptop, just in case. We're very disciplined about this, and every day we will create a folder on our laptop for the photos from that day. So every day of our long-term adventures, we have a folder for every single day. We will also download our video footage from our GoPros. The next thing we do is finalize our route for the next day. Alan does most of that, but he'll check in with me just to make sure that in case there's something I want to see along the way, make sure I'm happy with the distance, make sure I'm happy with where we're going to be at the end of the day, and then he'll lock that in. We will also book accommodation for the next night. We don't book ahead too far. In fact, it's usually just booking ahead for the next night. Occasionally we'll book on the day for that night, but usually it's booking for the next night. We have found from experience that sometimes we will arrive somewhere and just fall in love with this place and want to stay some extra nights, so we don't book ahead too far. On the flip side, occasionally, very rarely, but sometimes we rock up to somewhere and we're like, we were going to stay here 2 nights, but let's just stay here 1 night and head off the next day. So we'd like to build in that flexibility. And that is actually something that I would highly recommend for you, is just to keep that flexibility in your planning. And unless you have to be somewhere at a certain date, just keep some flexibility. It'll make your adventure much more enjoyable if you can change your plans easily, if you want to and if you need to. We'll also post up on our socials about our ride for the day, because we do love to share that with you. And we will do the most important thing, which is hopefully we get a moment to relax. Sometimes this is not always possible if it's been a big day. But, you know, we take a moment to relax, turn on the telly if we've got a TV there. And you would be surprised what we see on television in different countries. It's quite incredible the number of Australian shows that pop up. Outback Truckers is a favourite. We've seen that in quite a few countries, so there you go. And most importantly of all, just reflect on the day and how amazing it was, or how we overcame a challenge, or whatever's happened for the day, and just have a moment to really appreciate that we get to do this. and how special that is. So that is a typical riding day in Europe on our long adventures. Of course, it doesn't always look like that. Occasionally things don't always go to plan and it ends up looking a bit different. Sometimes we'll stay with other people, and that of course involves quite a bit of socializing, and we do love a chat, there's no doubt about that. And I always love meeting people. For me, meeting people along the way is one of the special things about our adventures in Europe and Australia. I think they can be the most special memories. I will share with you how we plan our routes in more detail in an upcoming episode, so keep an eye out for that. I'm hoping that there's something in our typical day that is helpful for you. If you found this really interesting, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button so that you know when the next episode drops. And this will also help other women find this podcast. It's really important with the podcasting algorithms. Subscribing and leaving a review or sharing the episode is really helps a lot. So thank you for doing that. And I will see you next week in the next episode.